Welcome to tape number 4, Best Sellers. On this tape, you'll soon learn Quicken, Microsoft Access, and Harvard Graphics. Sit back and watch the Computer Tutor tapes at your own pace. To find or review a certain topic, just check the index card and quickly go to just the right place on the tape. Use the on-screen locator window to fast forward or rewind to just the right place. Now here's the Computer Tutor herself, Kim Komando.
One of the most important things to all of us is our personal finances. You know what this is. It's a checkbook. And with it, we write checks and we fill out our deposits and we take money out and we put money in the bank. And then we also have to use a calculator to figure out how much money we have in the bank. Maybe you're adventurous kind and used a logbook like this. It's a little more extensive, but either way, it's still a hassle. You get the bank statement, you have to reconcile it, use the cash machine, forget to write something down, forget it. Well, it's much easier with Quicken. You can do your budgeting, you can plan for the future, you can take care of all those tasks that used to eat up your free time. You're learning Quicken for DOS, and follow me and I'll show you. Here at the system prompt, because it's a DOS program, we have to type the command to start the program. I type Q, press Enter, and Quicken will appear on the screen. Now, because it's the first time we're using the program, we get this welcome screen. New user assistance. Option number 1 is a good idea to see an overview of Quicken when you're at home and you have the time. I'm going to select option 2 to set up the Quicken data. Type in 2, press Enter to continue, and I see an explanation of files and accounts because that's really the basis of Quicken. Well, a file has one or more accounts. Press Enter to continue, and I can see that Quicken offers me 6 types of accounts. Now, I want to make sure that you're paying attention because there is going to be a quiz. Well, we probably are going to select a bank account, but you can see there's other types of accounts too. Press Enter to continue, and now there's categories. When you're using Quicken, make sure you always select a category. And a category, for example, as you see on the screen, tracks income such as salary. And your food bills, well, that category would be groceries. Because there's so much you can do with Quicken, there's also business categories. Press Enter to continue, and we get that first question from our pop quiz. Well, which statement below is true about an account? Well, I'll help you out. It's option 2. An account includes a checking account, a mutual fund, or a credit card account. It's certainly not option 3. I mean, Independence Day celebrates the birth of an account. Press Enter to continue, and isn't that a surprise? We got it right. I'll press Enter to continue again, and now it's a question about what a category is. Well, it's option 2 again. The answer is 2. It's not 1. I mean, I wouldn't want to get a category as a birthday present. A category helps you track income and expense items, such as the groceries, commissions, or taxes that we all have to pay. Press Enter to continue, and we got the answer right again. And here we are, we're to set up an account. We learned what a file and account was. I'm going to choose the account type, or option 1, the bank account, because we're going to make a checking account. Press Enter to continue, and Quicken gives me a name as my bank account. I'm going to accept Quicken's recommendation by pressing Enter to continue. Now Quicken is asking me for my account balance. Let's say my balance was $1,000. I just type in the number and press Enter to continue. And now I can type in today's date, or January 3rd, 1993. Quicken takes the date when you press the Tab key from the clock inside the computer. Press Enter to continue, and Enter to continue again, and now we're asked to confirm all the information we typed in. The account type is 1, a bank account. This is what I named my account balance, and as of today's date. Press Enter to continue, and you see a big note on the screen. Now, I can do it myself, but what this note is that there's an assistant for you right inside Quicken. It's called the File Assistant, and when I press Enter to continue, the assistant is going to help me out. Press Enter to continue, and you can see the File Assistant just did a whole bunch of things. What we're going to do is first we have to select our preferences, but the bottom line is we're going to create a new file because this is normally the first thing you do. Press Enter to continue, and now we need to select Set up a new file. I'm going to keep continuing by pressing Enter. Now the File Assistant is asking us the name of a file because we are going to save all our information inside the computer. As you learned in tape 1, a file name can have up to 11 characters, but in Quicken you only get 8 characters. I'm going to call the file name Checking, so this way I can look at it and I know what's inside. Press Enter to continue, and now Quicken says, is it okay if I put it on your hard disk in the Quicken directory? Well, I'm going to say it is okay by pressing Enter. And now we need to select what categories we want to use. Quicken gives me a couple of options. Well, I'm setting up my home checking account, so I want the home categories. But on the right-hand side, you see that Quicken also has business categories. You see, there's so much you can do inside Quicken. You can also keep your checking account for a small business on this program, too. I'm going to select just the home categories, and you see option 1 there. Press Enter to continue, and you see the file assistant just created the file for us to use. Press Enter to continue again, and now you see the file assistant setting everything up for us. Enter again, and then now we see that Quicken has added our checking account as on our list of accounts that we can use with the program. Press Enter to continue again, and now the file system tells us that the work is all done. And here we are again at the welcome screen, and I'm going to escape to go back to the main menu, because what's the first thing you do after you set up an account? Well, we write checks, and that's what we're going to do. Escape to the back to the main menu, press Escape again, and here we are. Now the Quicken main menu is like a menu in a restaurant. It has all different options that we can use. We can select something on the menu by moving the cursor arrow keys. Press down and the highlight moves down. The highlight tells me which option in the program I will be using. I can also use the mouse. This is the mouse pointer. It's a box. By pointing and clicking on what we want to do, it opens up that option in the menu. I'm going to point and click on Write Print Checks because that's what we're going to do. By pointing and clicking, you see a check on the screen that looks just like those in your checkbook. The date, again, is generated by the system clock inside the computer. See, there's a clock inside the computer that keeps track of the date, and Quicken goes out there and puts that date automatically in my check. By pressing the plus key, the date goes up, and it's a kind of a handy little feature. Every time I press the plus key, the date goes up. By pressing the minus key, the date goes down. When I press the tab key, I'm right here to tell Quicken who the check goes to, just like as if we were writing a regular check. I'm going to write a check to the water company. So I'm going to type in who the check is to, or the water company, just as if I was writing a regular check, only by hand. Press the tab key, and now I'm ready to enter in the amount of the check, or $38.25. Press the tab key again, and Quicken automatically fills out the amount just like the bank likes it. Here in the address field, I can type in the address, which will be used if I have one of those clear envelopes that has the window on it. But the water company gives me the envelope, so I don't need to type anything there. In the memo field, and I'm going to tab down there, I can type in my account number, and as I would, again, just as if I was writing a check by hand. Press the tab key, and you're in the category field. And it's important when you're writing a check that you always fill out the categories. You see, with Quicken, it takes all the information from the categories, and then later you can use it to see exactly where all that money's going. Now, to see the categories, I press Control-C. And here are all the categories, and Quicken automatically puts in there just about any place you might want to spend money. I'm going to press the down arrow keys until I get down to utilities, because a water bill is a utility bill. And once I get there, I have a couple of options. See, I have a gas and electric bill, but here's what I want, a water bill. By pressing Enter, I select a water utility bill as a category. Now, to record this check so that I can print it out later, I have to press Control-Enter. So when I press Control-Enter, it looks just like a check is being torn out of a regular checkbook. And now we're ready to write another check. And this check is going to my telephone company. So I type in who the check is to, the telephone company. Again, just as we did before, I'm going to tab over to the amount field and type in how much the telephone bill was for. Well, it wasn't that bad. It was only $47.65. When I press tab again, Quicken fills out the amount just like the bank likes it. Now the telephone company, they give you those envelopes too. So I'm going to tab right past that, right down to the memo field, and I'm going to type in my phone number because I always do that whenever I'm paying a bill. Tab down to the category field, and I'm going to show you a shortcut. Instead of scrolling through all the categories, when I type the first letter of the category, like T as in telephone, and then press Control-C, I see all the categories immediately that start with the letter T. I'm going to press the down arrow key until I reach telephone, press Enter to continue, and I see that I have selected telephone in my category field. Press Control-Enter to record the check, and you see it again being torn off. And now we're going to write one more check, and this is to pay my car insurance. So I type in who the check is for, or my insurance agents. I'm going to tab over to the amount field, and I'm going to type in how much my insurance bill was, or $225.75. Now you know what's going to happen next when I press the tab key. Quicken automatically fills out the amount for me. And again, the insurance agents, they gave me an envelope too. So I'm going to tab right past that. In the memo field, I'm going to put my account number, which is 123-321. That's on my insurance bill. Tab down to category, and now I'm going to type I because that's the shortcut. Hit Control-C, and I see all the categories that start with I. And insurance, it's the first one, so I'm going to press Enter to continue. Now we're going to record the check by pressing Control-Enter. And when I record the check, it goes into a special place so I can print it out later. Now I'm going to show you what the checkbook register looks like. It looks almost like the one that you're probably used to. I'm going to move the mouse pointer up to Activities, click the left mouse button to open the menu, and our first option is Register. That Control-R, it's a shortcut key, so anytime I want to use the register without opening up the menu, all I have to do is press Control-R. I'm going to click on Register, and here's my checkbook register. You can see our opening balance that we set up in the beginning. This is the check we wrote to the water company. This is the check we wrote to the telephone company. And this is the check to the insurance agents. Now, all those stars, well, that means that we haven't printed the checks yet, that the computer is waiting for us to tell Quicken in order to print the checks. So I'm going to go back to the checkbook by pointing and clicking on Activities. I'm going to go back to the Writing Checks menu by pointing and clicking there. And that Control-W, that's a shortcut too. So by just pressing Control-W, I don't even have to go and select the menu. Point and click on Write Checks. Now we're going to go up here to where it says Print Account. I'm going to open the menu by putting the mouse pointer there, point and click the left mouse button, and here's my option, Print Checks. When I point and click on Printing Checks, I have a couple of options. Quicken tells me that I have 3 checks to print. Those are the checks that we wrote. It's going to print to my laser printer. It's going to print all the checks, the type of checks to print on, and because I have a laser printer, I chose Laser Standard, which is standard is 8 by 11 paper. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control-Enter to print, and now Quicken asks me for the first check number. Well, that's okay with me, 1001. I'm going to press Enter to continue, and now every check that we wrote is being sent to the printer. I loaded my printer with special checks that you see here. In your Quicken box, there's an order form that you can order checks with that have your name and account number, just like regular checks, but only they work with your printer. And here's my checks now. And look how great they look. I mean, a lot better than if I would have written them by hand. And all I have to do is tear them off, sign the checks, put them in the envelopes, and my bills are paid. Now let's go back to the checkbook register and see what's happened since we wrote our checks. And to do that, I point and click on Activities to open up the menu. And here's Register, and I point and click there, and here's my checkbook register. First, I want you to take a look to see where the stars are. They're not there anymore. I have check numbers, and I get the check numbers after I've printed a check. Up at the top of the register, it looks just like the ones that we're used to when we write checks by hand. We have the date or the date of the transaction. Maybe we wrote a check or put money into our account. The number, and this is our check number, the payee, or who the check was made out to. A memo, we could write a short note to ourselves. And the category, well, these are the categories that we put on when we wrote the checks. And so now you can see it's important that you put these on when you write your check. The payment, or how much the check was for. And now the C column, that's where you reconcile your account, and there would be a spot there if the check had cleared. Now that used to be a hassle, but with Quicken, you'll see it's going to be easy. We have a deposit, and this is how much money we put in the bank. Then we have my favorite column, how much money is in the account. And again, we'll take a closer look at the checks we wrote. We see the check number, then we have the water company. This was who the check was made out to. And underneath is the account number that we put on the check. And now you can see the category, utilities, water. It also goes on the check, but it also goes in the register. And we have the payment, or how much the check was for. Now let's say you went to the cash machine or the ATM. It'd be pretty hard to carry a computer around with you wherever you go. So in order to put it in this checkbook register, I'm going to tab over, and the tab gets me from field to field. I'm going to tab here to the payee field, and I'm just going to type in ATM. And now we need to put in how much money we took out of the machine. So I'm going to tab over once to the payment field. And I took out $40. I don't need to put in the zeros or a decimal point. Quicken knows that. I'm going to tab again and tab again until I get to the memo field. I could write myself a note, but if I use the categories, I don't have to. I'm going to type in E because this is that shortcut that we learned when we wrote checks. Press Control-C because I want to select entertainment. I took money out before I went to the movies. I'm going to press the down arrow key to entertainment. Select it by pressing Enter. And there it is. Now we need to record this into the register. And I do that by pressing the Control key and then the Enter key. Now I want you to look on the screen to see your ending balance. Quicken keeps a running balance of how much money you have in your account, and you never even have to pick up a calculator. Let's say you made a deposit. You got a paycheck. Well, I'm going to tab over to the payee field, and I'm going to type in paycheck. Or I could type in where the money came from and then maybe the name of my employer. I'm going to tab over not to payment and not to the clear column. I'm going to type over to deposit because it is a deposit. I'm putting money into my account. I'm going to type in 1,200. Again, I don't have to put the zeros because Quicken knows that. I could put a memo. Maybe it was a bonus. But if it was my salary, I need to use those categories. So I'm going to type the letter S, and salary, it appears automatically because it's the first category that starts with an S. I'm going to press Control-Enter to record this. And again, my balance, hey, it went up. Good news. And now we're going to write one more check. Maybe you went to the gas station. You bought some gas. So with the date OK, I can change the date, but the date's fine with me. I'm going to tab and put in the check number, or 1004, press tab again, and now I type in who the check was made out to, or the gas station. I just type in what I want. If you ever make a mistake, though, all you have to do is press the backspace key, and it erases one character to the left. Now I'm going to type in how much the check was for. I tab over to the payment field, type in 22, and again, I don't have to put those zeros in. Just keep tabbing. I could make a note to myself there in the memo field, but the categories, they're always so helpful. I'll just type the letter A, and I see auto, but I really want to make it a little bit more specific. So I'm going to press Control-C to pull up all the categories that start with the letter A. And I see a fuel, loan, and service. Well, I bought gas, so it's fuel, and I move the cursor down arrow to select it, and then press Enter to choose it. And there you see auto fuel in my category. And now I'm going to record it by pressing Control-Enter. Now look at my ending balance. Quicken figured it out automatically, and I didn't even need to pick up a calculator. Well, what about reconciling that checking account? You know, the bank sends you those statements every month. I know some people that just file them away. I know others that throw them away. And I know some people that just close out an account and move banks just so they can start from scratch. Well, let me show you how to reconcile your checking account. Point and click on Activities to open the menu. Point and click on Reconcile, And now Quicken reminds us what a reconciliation is, just in case we didn't know. Well, what it does is it makes sure that the bank and I agree on how much money is in there. Well, we're going to continue by pressing F10, and now Quicken tells us that we opened our account with $1,000, which is right. And now we look at our statement, it's on there somewhere, for how much money the bank says that we have. And on my statement, it said $1,819.35. I'm going to tab down, and I see the opening date of the statement. That's on there too, and the ending date. Well, now we have to put in that service charge. Well, my bank charges me $7 just to keep my money in there and to keep my checking account. So I'm going to type in 7, and here we are with those categories again. Well, we have to have a category for this because it is important because we'll use this later. By pressing Control-C, we have all our categories again. Well, I'm going to go all the way down by pressing the down arrow key to bank charge because there's one there. So I'm going to accept this by pressing Enter. And now if we get any interest on our checking account, we could tab down there and type it in. But I don't, so I'm just going to press Enter to continue. When I do that, here's my reconciliation report. It looks a little scary, but it's really not. Up at the top, you see all the transactions that were in my checkbook register. My paycheck, when I took money out of the ATM, the water company, the telephone company check, and that gas station check. Well, what we have to do is mark the items that are cleared. I can put a star in, or if I press Enter, the star will appear automatically. And when I put a star in there, that means that the item has been cleared or the check has been cashed. So my paycheck, when I press Enter, the bank and I agree that it's in there. The ATM, well, that was on my statement too, so I'm going to accept that by pressing Enter. The water company, they cashed the check, so I'm going to say that it's cleared by pressing Enter. The telephone company, they cashed their check too, and so I'm going to press Enter because the check's cleared. The insurance agents, yep, they cashed their check, so I'm going to press Enter. And the gas station, well, he took his money, he took his check to the bank too. So I'm going to press Enter. And now on the bottom of the screen, it's a reconciliation summary. I mean, that's all there was to reconciling account. And now Quicken said, tells me that I had 6 checks, 1 deposit. It tells me what my balance, and it says that there's no difference, which was good news. I mean, it's not that tough. And so now to continue, all you have to do is press Control and F10. So I'm going to press Control F10. And even Quicken says, hey, congratulations, your account balances. Now it asks me if I want to print a reconciliation report. Well, I'm going to say yes, because I do like to keep these filed. So I just type in Y for yes. I press Enter to continue, and I get a full report on what I did. But beforehand, I have to say where I want the report to go. Well, I want option 1 in a report style, so I'll accept that by pressing Tab. The reconciliation date, well, that's today's date, so I'll accept it by tabbing down. The report title, I'll just say checking, but I made a mistake, so I'll have to press the backspace key. I made another mistake. I do type sometimes well. So I'll just say checking. And now it asks me if I want a full report or summary. I'll just take a summary because it really cleared okay. By pressing Control Enter, my report will go to the printer. And now you can see it soon will be coming out. Now, if ever your checking account doesn't reconcile for some reason, this report is a good way of tracking down where something went wrong, whether it was the bank or whether it was you. Maybe you forgot to put something in your Quicken account, because it sometimes happens because we all get so busy. Let's take a look at the first page of our report. And here we see it's a bank statement, tells us all the transactions that cleared. It's a little bit more detail of what we saw on the screen. And then here's our second page. It says the items that were uncleared. And so if your statement ever doesn't balance, or your bank and yourself don't agree, this is a good way of figuring out where who and what went wrong. Now that we've reconciled our checking account, let's take a look at the checkbook register and see how it has changed. With the main menu, I have Use Register highlighted, so all I have to do is press Enter to go there. When I do, I see my checkbook register. Over here in the C column, where there was nothing before, there are now X's. This tells me that the items with the X's have been cleared and that the checkbook has been reconciled, and it balances in certain areas, or the areas with the X. But there's also some other things you can do in Quicken. Maybe do that budget you've been promising yourself to do. Let's go to the Activities menu and open it up. And there I point and click to open up the menu. My third option, Set Up Budgets. I'm going to point and click on Set Up Budgets, and here it looks like a blank budget. Now I could go through item by item, month by month, and put in the numbers myself, but I'm going to let Quicken do the work for me. First, I go up to the Edit menu, point and click on Edit to open it up. Down here, I have Budget Transfers, and I need to put a check mark before that. What this tells Quicken is I want to take all the information out of my checking account so far and build a budget for me. So I'm going to get a check mark there by pointing and clicking on Budget Transfers. Now it still looks blank, so we have one more step to do. I'm going to point and click on Edit to open the menu. Up in here, I have Auto Create. This means Quicken's going to create my budget for me. When I point and click on Auto Create, it asks me some questions. Do I want to copy the information from this month through this month? Well, yes. Do I want to place the budget starting in the first month? I sure do. And do I want to round the numbers? And then the last question is, do you want an average? Well, I don't think that's necessary, so I'll go item by item and press Enter to accept each one. Press Enter to continue, and now you see Quicken has taken the numbers out of my checking account and put them to create a budget. And that's why it's so important to use those categories, because the information goes several places. You can see my salary income, and this was our paycheck that we put in the register. And now to see the bottom of the screen, I'm going to move the mouse pointer over to the scroll bar. That's like an elevator. When I move the box down, it'll move down. So I'm going to point and click on the down arrow to see what else is in my budget. Each time I click, it moves down a little bit. And as we see our auto expense, there's auto fuel. That was the check we wrote to buy gas. We keep going, we can see that bank charge that we did, and all the other checks we wrote, even that ATM, $40. That's our insurance, and then pretty soon we should be able to see our water bill, or there's our telephone bill, and there's our water bill. And then we can see everything else about our checking account that's in the budget. You can see the total budget inflows, which are the money that you put into your account, minus the money that you used for expenses, and what the difference was. It's a great way of keeping track where your money is and where it's all going. Let's go back to the Writing Checks menu. We do that by pointing and clicking on Activities. I'm going to point and click on Write Checks, and here we are, right where we started with that check on the screen. But I'm going to show you something else. I'm going to open the Activities menu by pointing and clicking there. Financial Planning. Well, it sounds scary, but it's not. I'm going to open up that menu by pointing and clicking. These are several features in Quicken that makes planning for that future easier, like a loan calculator. I'm going to point and click there. Let's say you wanted to go buy a car and you needed a loan and you were wondering how much that payment is. Well, even before you go shopping, let's say your car was $10,000. Just type in 10,000, press the tab key to go down, and your annual interest rate, maybe the dealer's offering 6%. Press the tab key, how many years? Maybe I have a 3-year loan, and you can see right there my regular payment is almost $305. So now you know how much you can afford even before you go car shopping. If you look at F9, or if you press F9, you can see your whole payment schedule, or how much money is actually going towards paying on the car and how much money is going towards the interest to get the money on the car. And then you can see your balance, a running balance of how much money it would take to pay off that car loan. When you're all done taking a look at it, just press the Escape key and press the Escape key again. And there's one more financial planning tool I'd like to show you. Point and click on Activities to open up the menu. Point and click on Financial Planning. And what about college planning? We need to plan for our future, they say. So let's say you had a child going to college, and the current tuition maybe in your state for a state college is about $5,000. So we type in 5,000. How many years until your child goes to college? Well, maybe it's 4 years. So I'll type in 4. And the number of years enrolled, well, typically you're in college for 4 years. And then the present savings, this is how much money you have in the bank, and maybe you don't have any. Here, Quicken tells me that I need to put away over $2,800 just to save up enough before my child goes to school. It also gives me a 4% inflation rate that's predicted. If you want to see your payments, all you have to do is press F9. And when I do that, I can see what my payment is, $2,830.44, and then also what the tuition will be, say, for example, in 1998. Or it's no longer $5,000. Because of inflation, it's going to be over $5,800. So it's a good way of planning for that future without having to second guess whether or not you have enough money to send your child to school. When you're all done taking a look at this, you could always print it out. But I'm just going to escape and go back to the activities menu. We're going to go back to the main menu right now by pressing the escape key. They always say a picture's worth 1,000 words. So I'm going to put my income and my expenses into a graph. And here you see the View Graphs option. I'm going to go there by pointing and clicking on View Graphs. And now here's some graphs that Quicken gives me. I can see my income and expense, my net worth, that budget. I can have a picture that shows me what exactly I budgeted and how much I actually spent. And if I had an investment account, I could do the same thing and see all my investments in a picture. I'm going to choose income and expense by pointing and clicking on it. I want to see my monthly income and expense, so I'm going to point and click on that. And now it asks me to graph the months. I could graph 2 months, 3 months, or a whole year, but I'm just going to graph for the month of January. So I'm going to tab over if I wanted to change it, but I'm just going to accept it and show me the graph by pressing Enter. And now it asks me what kind of graphics driver I have. All this means really is, do you have a color monitor? And if you have a color monitor, this is the choice that you probably want. I'm going to press Enter, and now it asks me, do you want to have a larger text or do you want to have a larger picture or graph area? I'll have the larger graph area, or do I have a black and white graphics only? That just means, do you have a color monitor? And I do have a color monitor, so I put a no there. Press Enter, and now here's my picture. This is my monthly income and expense. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a legend. The yellow is my income, and my expenses are blue. And as you see, my income, well, it's a lot higher than my expenses, but you have to remember it's only January 3rd, and we're nowhere near the end of the month. When you're all done looking at your picture, press the Escape key, and press the Escape key as many times as it takes to get back to the main menu. We're going to go one more time to the right Print Check screen. I'm going to go there by pointing and clicking on it. Once I do, here's that check again. But there's something else under this menu, the Print Account menu, that's very important. When I point and click there to open up the menu, we see a backup file. I'm going to point and click on that. Now let's talk for a moment about a backup. A backup is like an insurance policy. Now Quicken saves your information as you type it in, but it's always a good idea to have a backup somewhere else. So what you do is you take the information and you put it on a floppy diskette, and you put that diskette in a safe place. It's almost like an insurance policy. So now Quicken asks me to have the drive letter of the backup disk, or to put the letter there of the disk drive that we talked about back in tape 1, where my backup disk is located, or in my case, it's in the A drive. Press Enter to continue. Because I already have my diskette in there, I'll press Enter. And you see the light go on the drive that tells me that the information is being backed up, or it's being copied. And Quicken tells me that the file has been backed up successfully. I'll press Enter to continue, and now I'm going to press Escape to go back to the main menu. When you're all done using Quicken, all you have to do is point and click on Exit. When I point and click on Exit, I'm right back at the DOS prompt. So as you see, Quicken makes personal finance a snap. You've learned how to write checks, reconcile that account, do a budget, we've made a graph. Use Quicken. You can really manage your finances with it. Probably the most important thing on everybody's mind are their personal finances, how much money they have. Now you know what this is. It's a checkbook. We write checks and then we have to reconcile the account. We have to use a calculator to figure out how much money we have. Maybe you're the adventurous kind and you use a logbook like this, but you still have to fill it out, you still have to fill out the columns, and you're back to the calculator. Well, now you're going to be learning Quicken, and because this version of Quicken works in Windows, it might be a good time to review Tape 1. Let's start the program with Windows on the screen and the Program Manager up top. You see an open Quicken window, and to start the program, all we do is point and double-click. We see the hourglass that tells us Quicken is getting everything together that we need to keep track of our finances. Now, the first thing we need to do is to set up an account. So we need to point and click on New, and as we do, Quicken will ask us several questions. Quicken offers 6 different types of accounts. We have a bank account, there's a credit card account that you can keep your MasterCards and Visas straight on, a cash account, an asset account, a liability account for all those loans, but an investment account too for the stocks and bonds. We want to set up a checking account, which is a bank account, so I'll select that by pointing and clicking the left mouse button. Point and click on OK, and we're ready to put in more information about our checking account. The account name is checking, but if you look at the yellow box, Quicken helps us out. We type in the account name that Quicken recommends because it's a good one, our checking account. Press the Tab key and we're ready to put in our balance, or $1,000. I'm going to type in 1,000 and then press the Tab key where I can change the date. Or I'm just going to accept the date because that's today's date. Press the Tab key and I can put in a description, maybe where my checking account is, like First National, which is sometimes helpful if you have more than one checking account when you're using Quicken. I'm going to accept all this by pointing and clicking on OK. And here we are back at the account list. Now the first time you use Quicken, the program will walk you all through that whole step, so don't worry if you missed anything. Now we're ready to use our bank account. What's the first thing you do after you open a bank account? Well, you write checks. So up here on the toolbar, and we know from Windows training that all these are pictures, they're icons. Really what they are, they're shortcuts. Well, we want this one. It's a check, and it has a pen on it, and what it does is it allows us to write checks. I'm going to point and click on that icon that says check, and on the screen we have something that looks just like our checkbook. We have the date, and I'm going to accept the date by pressing the Tab key. And now here's where we say who the check goes to, who gets the money off of this check. So I type in water company just as if I was using a regular checking account. I'm going to press the Tab key and I'm going to put in the dollar amount, or $38.25. Just type in 38 or the amount, $38.25, press the Tab key, and Quicken automatically fills out the amount just like the bank likes it. Here in the address field, this is handy in case you need to pay a bill and they don't give you an envelope. You need to use one of those envelopes with the plastic window. Well, the water company gave me an envelope, so I'm going to tab down to the memo field. And here I can keep track of my account, so I'll put my account number on there so the water company can always find it easily. Next, I'm going to tab down to the category field. The categories are real important when you're using Quicken. It'll help you keep track of your finances easier. Let's take a look at our categories. So I'm going to point and click on the down arrow, and you can see all the categories. Well, the category I want to find is utilities. So this is our elevators that we learned back in Windows. When I point and click on the down arrow, the names will move down in alphabetical order. I'm going to go all the way down to utilities, and the elevator goes down until I see utilities. And once there, I see gas and electric or water. Well, this is a water bill, so I'm going to select that by pointing and clicking on it. Now we need to record the check. I'm going to point and click on record. You hear that sound, and that means that we'll be ready to print the check. The next check I'm going to write is to the telephone company. I need to pay my phone bill. Now I can change the date, and by dropping the cursor there, by clicking the left mouse button, or I can just accept the date by pressing the Tab key. When I press the tab key, I'm ready to say who the check goes to, or the telephone company. I'm going to type in telephone company, press the tab key, and then I want you to notice something. You may have wondered what this box does before. When I point and click on it, Quicken keeps track of everybody that I ever write a check to. So next time I need to pay the water company, when I need to pay my water bill, all I need to do is point and click here and just select the water company from the list. And as you use your checking account, all these names will be filled up, and your list may be a lot longer than mine is right now. I'm going to go back to the amount field by moving the mouse pointer there and clicking the left mouse button. I'm going to put in the amount for my phone bill, or $47.65. Press the tab key, and Quicken fills that out for me, just like the bank likes it. That's my address field, and the phone company gave me an envelope. I'm going to tab down to memo field and put in my phone number, because I always like to have that on my check. And then I'm going to go down to category by pressing the tab key. And here's a shortcut. If I press the first letter of the category that I want, like T, that brings it up automatically, so I don't have to start from the beginning. I'm going to open up the categories by pointing and clicking on the down arrow. I'm going to point and click on the down arrow a couple of more times until I see telephone. I'm going to point and click on telephone because that's the category that I want this expense to go under. Point and click on record. You hear that sound? It means it has been recorded. We're ready to write one more check. Well, I have to pay my car insurance. So I'm going to put the mouse cursor or mouse pointer over here and click the left mouse button. When I do that, now I'm ready to say who the check goes to, or insurance agents. And then we're ready to put in the amount over in the next field. And I'm going to go there by pressing the tab key. Well, my insurance bill, $225.75. I'm going to tab down, and Quicken fills out that amount for me. I'm going to go past the address, because the insurance, they were kind enough to give me an envelope. In the memo field, I'm going to put my account number, 234456. Press the tab key, and we're into the category fields because we always keep track of our categories. I'm going to press the I to bring up all the categories that start with the letter I. In insurance, it was the first category that starts with the letter I, so it comes up automatically. I'm going to point and click on record to record the check. And now that we're all done, I'm going to close my checkbook by pointing and clicking in the control panel that we talked about in Windows. Point and double-click there, and the window is closed. And now we're ready to print our checks. To print your checks, just point and click on File, which opens up the menu. And here we have Print Checks, and I'm going to point and click there, which brings up a whole print menu, and it tells me that I have 3 checks to print for $311.65. And we didn't even pull out a calculator. It starts with this first check number that Quicken gives me automatically, but I can always change it. I want to print all the checks, or I can change the date, or just pick a few checks. And these are how my checks are, 3 on one page, or 2 or 1. You'll see what I mean in just a second. So let's send these checks to our printer by pointing and clicking on Print. When I do that, you get the message. Quicken always asks us, did the checks print okay? But as you see, I loaded my laser printer with some special checks. These are pre-printed checks that have my account number and my name already on them. There's an order form inside your Quicken box to order checks made specially just for your printer. And if you take a look at the checks, they're all filled out probably nicer than I could do it. And then all I have to do is tear them apart, sign them, put them in an envelope, and my bills are paid. Sometimes it isn't always practical to write every check using your computer and Quicken. Say you go to the grocery store to buy some food. You need to go buy some gas. Well, I always keep a checkbook in my purse when I need to write a manual check. But what about if you go to the ATM for some quick cash? Well, you need to tell Quicken this so your checking account is up to date. But don't worry, there's a special way of doing this. Let me show you. Here on the toolbar, there's an icon that says Register. It kind of looks like a register, and it has the label underneath. I'm going to point and click on Register to bring up my checkbook register. But first, I want you to notice all the checks that we wrote are in our register, and they all have check numbers that Quicken generated automatically. Here's the check to the water company. the account number, and those categories I was telling you about. And now we can see the amount of the check. But first we're going to enter in a time that I went to the ATM because I needed some money to go to the movies. We're going to go down here where the cursor is blinking and it has the date. I'm going to accept the date by pressing the Tab key. Once I press the Tab key, Quicken gives me different options for my checking account register. It was an ATM, deposit, electronic funds transfer, or I can pick the next check number. I'm going to point and click on ATM because that's what this transaction is. I'm going to press the Tab key to go to the Payee field, and here I'm going to type in cash. What Quicken does is it automatically keeps track of who I write checks to. So if I ever write a manual check again, I don't have to type in the name of the person if I've used the computer to write that check before. I'm going to press the Tab key to type in the amount that I took out of the cash machine, which was $40. Now I don't need to type in the 00s afterwards because Quicken will take care of that for me. When I press the Tab key again, I'm in the memo field. And maybe I want to put a note about this transaction. It's optional though, so I'm going to press the Tab key and go to those categories. Well, I took the $40 out so I could go to the movies, so it was entertainment. So I'm going to use this shortcut by typing the first letter of the category, or an E as in entertainment. Well, I don't want education, although the movie was educating. I'm going to point on the down arrow and see entertainment. I'm going to select entertainment by pointing and clicking there. Now we need to record this transaction in our checking account. Down here you see a record button. When you point and click on that, you hear that beep, and that means it has been recorded. But let's say you put some money in your account. You got a paycheck and you're not doing electronic funds transfer with your employer. Well, here with the date, I press the Tab key and I see my options, and deposit's one of them. I'm going to point and click on deposit, press the Tab key, and now again it asks me to put in some more information about this deposit. So I'm going to type in paycheck, so this way I always know what it means. And if you ever make a typo, all you have to do is press the backspace key and it erases one character to the left. I'm going to type in check and then press the Tab key again, and I'm right into the deposit column. I'm going to type in the amount of the deposit, or $1,200. And again, I don't have to type in the 00 after it. Press the Tab key, and I can put a note here. Maybe it was for a bonus or something, but it wasn't. So I'm going to press the Tab key again and put in those categories. And here I am at the categories, and since this is a paycheck, it's salary. So I'm going to type in the letter S for salary, and salary is right there. So I'm going to point and click on salary to accept it. I'm going to record this transaction by pointing and clicking on the record button. Well, I also went to the gas station today, and here's a time when maybe you've written a manual check. I'm going to accept the date by pressing the Tab key. When I do this, it was the next check number, so rather than having to look up above and see what the last check number was that I wrote, all I have to do is point and click on next check number, and Quicken will figure it out for me automatically. I'm going to press the Tab key to go to the Payee field, or who the check was made out to. It was made out to the gas station, so I'm going to type in gas station. Press the Tab key, and I'm ready to type in the payment amount, which was $22. Again, I don't have to enter in the zeros. I'm going to press the Tab key for a memo. Well, I don't need a memo on gas. And I'm going to press the Tab key again, and this was an automobile expense, so I'm going to type the letter A. Now I see auto, auto fuel, auto loan. It was auto fuel, so I'm going to point and click on fuel. And there you go, we need to record it, so I point and click on record. And there's other things that you can take a look at in your checking account register. Like take a look at the ending balance, which is located here on your screen. It's down here at the bottom, and Quicken figures it out for me automatically, and I never even had to pick up a calculator. Now we're done using our checkbook register, so let's put it away. We're going to close a window. All we do is point and double-click on the control panel, like this. Point and double-click, and it's all put away. Now let's reconcile this checking account. You know, I know a lot of people, when they get those bank statements in the mail, they just throw them away. Other people, they just file them. And I know some people, they just change banks if they can't figure out how much money they really have in the account. But using Quicken, it's not difficult to reconcile your account. The program does most of the work for you. Let's look at the toolbar and find the icon that allows us to reconcile our checking account. It's right here. It has the scales and the label underneath. Let's point and click on reconciliation, and now we're asked a few questions. Well, our bank statement opening balance. It was $1,000, so I'll accept that by pressing the Tab key. The ending balance, this is the number that's on your bank statement somewhere. On my statement, it was $1,819.35. You just type in the amount, and now we need to put in the service charge. I'm going to press the Tab key to go to this field. Now, the service charge is how much the bank charges you to keep your checking account there. My bank charges me $7, so I'll type in 7 for $7. Press the Tab key, and Quicken asks us for the date the amount was charged. Well, I'll just take today's date. Press the Tab key, and these are those categories again. Well, a bank service charge is an expense, so I'm going to find the category by pressing Control-C. When I press Control-C, all those categories pop up on the screen. And here is that elevator that we learned about in Windows. When I point and click on the down arrow, my categories are moving in alphabetical order. We go past Auto, and we find Bank Charge. Well, I want to use it, so I'm going to point and click on Use. And Bank Charge appears there. Press the Tab key, and I can enter in any interest that I may have earned on my account. Well, I don't earn any interest, so I'm just going to go directly to OK and point and click there. And now we need to mark off the items that have cleared as per our bank statement. And to do that, we point and click. Well, my deposit cleared, and so I want to tell Quicken this, so I point and click. And when an item is cleared, I get a check mark there. Point and click on the ATM, because that cleared too. Well, the water company, that check cleared, so I'm going to point and click there. The telephone company, that check cleared. The insurance agents, they cashed their check. And that gas station, yep, they cashed their check too. And if we take a look on the bottom, Quicken tells me how many deposits I made, how many checks I wrote, and what the amount was for. And it tells me the cleared balance and the bank statement balance. And the difference, hey, it's 0. What a piece of cake. I'm going to point and click on Done because I'm all done. It was that easy to reconcile my account. Now Quicken tells me, congratulations, my account's balanced. Well, the items will now appear on my checkbook register too as cleared. And it asks me if I'd like a report of all the work I just did. So I'm going to point and click on Yes because I'd like to see it. Now I can send this report to my printer, and I can give the report a title. And to do that, I move my mouse pointer there, and I click the left mouse button so I see my cursor. And I'll just call it my checking account. And this will be my report title that will be shown on the top. Now it asks me to show the bank balance as of today's date, and that's okay. Now my transactions, I can include all transactions by pointing and clicking on that button there. Or I can just get a summary and the uncleared items. Point and click there, because that's the report I want to take a look at. When I point and click on Print, my reconciliation report is being sent to my printer. It's a good idea if you don't get that congratulations screen to print out a reconciliation report. It makes figuring out what happened easier when you start going through your checkbook register and the report, and it just makes it a piece of cake. We take a look at the first page of our reconciliation report. I get some more detail on where exactly my money went to, as far as on total amounts, so I can see it easily. It's like a picture of where everything's going. This is the second page of the report. And again, it helps you if your balance doesn't match what the bank says is in your checking account. Now you've seen how easy it is to reconcile that checking account. You'll probably never throw another bank statement in the drawer again. What about something else? A budget. That's another thing a lot of people don't like to do. But with Quicken, it's easy. I'll show you now. Up on the Activities menu, on the menu bar, we're going to point and click on it to open it up. Here we see Set Up Budgets. I'm going to point and click on Set Up Budgets, and we have a whole screen of the months outlined for us already, as well as the inflows, or our income, and then the outflows on the bottom. Here's why also it's important that you always use those categories. The first step to making a budget is going over here and selecting transfers. When I point and click on transfers, this tells Quicken that I want to use all the information from my checking account to make a budget. For example, as you'll see, it'll take my telephone charge and put it in my budget automatically. And to do that automatically, I have to point and click on Auto. When I point and click on Auto, I get asked a couple of questions. Quicken asks me if I want to start from January 1993. Well, I don't. I want January 1994. So I need to change the 3 to a 4, and I do that by pointing and clicking the left mouse button to drop the cursor there. I'm going to press the backspace key to erase the 3, and I'm going to put in a 4. Now we need to change the 1293 to 1294 because I want to go for a whole year. So I'm going to put the cursor over there by moving the mouse and clicking the left mouse button. Press the backspace key to erase the 3, and I'm going to put in a 4. The next question is round values to the nearest dollar. Well, when I point and click on the down arrow, you can see I can round to $10 or $100, but a dollar is good for me, so I'm going to keep it by pointing and clicking. I can also have monthly detail or averages for the period. Well, I like to see monthly detail, so I'm going to point and click on monthly detail. I'm going to accept this by pointing and clicking on OK, and Quicken automatically creates my budget. You can see here that that's our salary, our $1,200 paycheck that we put inside of our checking account register. The numbers in black, those are positive. The numbers in red, those are negative, or that means that we spent money. Let's take a look at the rest of our expenses. That was our automobile fuel expense, if you remember. I'm going to go over here to these elevator bars that we learned about in Windows, and I'm going to point and click on that down arrow to see all my expenses. There's the bank charge. We have that entertainment, ATM, you know, the $40. We also have that insurance bill. You can see everything all lined up, and I didn't even have to type it in. Quicken, it did all the work for me on a budget automatically. Down here on the bottom, you can see your total inflows, or money going into the budget, and the outflows, or the money that you spent, and what the difference was. And when you're all done taking a look at your budget, which again, it's not difficult to do because Quicken does most of the work for you, I'm going to point and click on the Close window when you're all done. Point and click on Close, and now Quicken asks us if we'd like to save the budget. Well, I'm not going to save it, so I'm just going to point and click on No. And we're right back here with our main menu and the icon bar. There's also something other in the Activities menu that you should see. These are financial planners. I'm going to point and click on Activities to open up the menu. It's down here, Financial Planners. When I point and click on Financial Planners, I can point and click on Loan. And when I do that, it's a loan planner. This is handy for when you want to go get a house loan, or maybe you're car shopping and you want to know how much of a car that you can afford. Can you spend $10,000 or $15,000, and what that monthly payment is. Well, we see the loan amount, and that's 0. Well, I need to put in $10,000 right now. So I'm going to put in $10,000 because I want to buy a $10,000 car. I'm going to press the Tab key, and I can change the Quicken amount from 8%. I'm going to change that to 6%, and all I have to do is type in the 6. I don't have to put in the percent. Quicken knows that. Press the Tab key, and it asks me for the number of years. Well, 30 years is typical on a house loan, not a car loan. So a car loan, I just need to type the number 3, press the Tab key, and I have 12. I pay my car payment every month, so it's 12 periods per year. So you see my payment per period, $304.22. I mean, Quicken did everything. I didn't even need to pick up a calculator. And now we can take a look at the schedule. It's up here by pointing and clicking on Schedule. And once I do that, I can see my payment numbers, also the principal, or the amount that's actually going towards paying off the car, the interest on that loan, and what the balance is, so that this way when I go to the bank and say, I want to pay off the loan, I know how much it is. You can print this out, or I'll just close it by pointing and clicking on OK. I'm going to close this window or put it away by pointing and clicking on Close. Another handy financial planner is one that has to deal with college, planning for the future. I'm going to point and click on Financial Plannings, point and click on College, and this is the College Planner. Let's say you had a child that hopefully they would go to college someday because it is so important. You need to save money so that they'll be able to go. So it's a good time to start, but the question always is, how much do I have to put away? Because it is a calculation. Well, let's take a look at Quicken, because it's easy with Quicken. The annual college cost, well, this is how much it might cost for the child to go to school today. So maybe it's $5,000 a year at a state college. I'm going to press the Tab key, and this is years until enrollment, or maybe it's 4 years before the child actually goes to college. So I'm going to type in the number 4. The number of years enrolled, well, most people are in college for 4 years, so I'll accept the 4, and I'll tab to the current college savings. Well, let's say I haven't saved anything, so I'm going to press the Tab key again, and this is my annual yield, or how much money or a percent I'm making on my savings. Well, I make 4% on my savings, so I'll type in the number 4. Press the Tab key, and now Quicken asks me for the predicted inflation rate. So you know what Quicken does is it takes all this information and it puts it so that I have an accurate number on how much I need to save. Well, the 4%, that's fine by me, but I want you to see right here that it calculated it on the 4%. You can see my annual contribution, or the money that I have to put away so that my child can go to college, is almost $3,000 a year. And I can look at the schedule of payments or how I'm going to put the money in the bank by pointing and clicking on Schedule. And once I do that, you can see the years, the deposit, and what the tuition is, not today, but with the inflation rate. And Quicken, it takes into consideration the percentage that I make on my money and also the inflation rate. And you can see what my balance is. You can close this by pointing and clicking on Close. When you're all done using the College Planner, you can put the window away by pointing and clicking on Close. We can also do a quick graph with Quicken. You know, sometimes you ask yourself, hey, where did all the money go when you look at your checking account? Well, a picture is worth 1,000 words, especially when it has to do with your money. So let's make a quick graph using Quicken. Up here on the icon bar, we see a picture, or an icon, that looks like it has a bar chart, and it said Graphs underneath. So I point and click on Graphs, and now I have all different types of graphs I can create. An income and expense, the budget variance, that just means you'll see in a picture how much you budgeted and how much you really spent. Your net worth, or how much money you're worth, an investment graph to see all those stocks and bonds in a picture. Well, I'm going to keep income and expense graph, and I'm just going to point and click on OK. And once I do that, Quicken asks me what months it should analyze. Well, I just want to see January 1994 through January 1994. So I'm going to point and click on Graph. And here's my graph. Up here on the top is my income and expenses in a bar chart for the month of January. You can see my income is in blue and my expenses are in yellow. And you can also see by taking a look at it that my income is a lot higher than my expenses. Well, that's only because it's January 3rd. It's not the end of January yet. It'll certainly look different at the end of the month. If we take a look at the bottom, we see our net savings and expense comparison as a percentage of our total income. We see our net savings is in green, the insurance, the telephone, the entertainment. We can see exactly how much money we're spending. This Z that you see every once in a while on a magnifying glass, this allows me to take a closer look at something. Like, let's say I wanted to see my telephone bill, or I wanted to see really how come my telephone is almost 4% of my expenses. I put the Z on whatever I want to see, and I double-click the left mouse button. And here I can see my monthly expenditures for telephone was almost $50. So it's that easy. I can also take a closer look at my telephone bill, if I wanted to, by putting the Z or the magnifying glass on there and double-clicking the left mouse button. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to point and double-click on the control panel to close this window and put it away. When I point and double-click, the window's closed. And I'm also done looking at my income and expense graph, so I'm going to close this window too by pointing and double-clicking in the control panel. Now Quicken automatically saves all the information you put inside the program, but it's also a good idea to make a backup of the information. When I point and click on File and I point and click on Backup, Quicken asks me a couple of questions. What file to back up? I can back up the current file or select a file from a list. It also asks me the backup drive, and as you know from tape 1, the A: is the first floppy disk drive in my computer. I'm going to select A drive by pointing and clicking. And now I have to take a floppy diskette and put it inside the disk drive. So I take my diskette and I slide it in. When I hear it click, it's in there all the way. When I point and click on OK, Quicken will start backing up the information. A backup is like an insurance policy. It's always good to have a safe copy of all your information, just in case. And it's like insurance, you never know when you'll need it, but it's always good if you have it when you do. Well, Quicken backed up my file successfully, so I'm going to point and click on OK. And now that we're all done with Quicken, I can close the program or quit the program a couple of ways. I can point and double-click on the control panel, or I can point and click on File to open the menu and select Exit at the bottom. I'm going to point and click on Exit, and we're right back where we started. We're at the windows. But as you can see, you don't need an accounting degree to balance your checkbook. Reconciling that checking account, it's a snap with Quicken. Planning for the future, it's so important. And with Quicken, it is so simple. And now you can see why so many people are buying Quicken and why it's one of the top-selling programs right now. We live in a world full of lists. We have grocery lists that we need to keep track of everything that we need from the market. We have a things to do list, these handy pre-printed forms that we fill out. What about things to do this week? It's another pre-printed form. My Rolodex, another list of all my names and addresses of all my customers. We have a phone book. It's another list of all the people and businesses that live around me. I mean, you'd think somebody would come up with a list just to keep track of all the lists. When you're talking about computers, a list isn't called just a list. It's called a database. And when you need to keep track of any list, Microsoft Access is there to help you out. And because Access works with Windows, it might be a good time to review Tape 1. So let's get started with Windows on the screen and the Program Manager up at the top. In the Open Microsoft Access window, we see the icon or the picture that starts the program. When I point and double-click, Microsoft Access is getting everything together that I need to keep track of all my lists. The screen that welcomes you to Microsoft Access has a few good ways to help you get started. By pointing and clicking on this button, you can create a new database. Point and click on this button, and you can take a look at a sample database or a sample list. When you point and click on this button, you can get a quick introduction to the program. I'm going to close this window by pointing and clicking on the Close button because we're going to make our own list. I'm going to make a customer Rolodex file, but using Microsoft Access. Now to do that, I first have to open up a new file or a new database or a new list. And to do that, I point and click on File to open the window. I select New Database and I point and click there. And now Microsoft Access asks me for the name of my list or the file. And I'm going to call this my customer list, but I'm going to shorten it up to CUST. I'm going to point and click on OK to accept that as my file name. And now Microsoft Access is asking me for a table. Well, a table, all it is the information that I want to put inside my list, like my Rolodex cards. On my table, I have my the customer's last name, the customer's first name, the company, the address, the city, state, and zip code. So we need to use this with Microsoft Access, and in order to do that, we need to create a new table. So I'll do that by pointing and clicking on New. That brings up a whole table. Now we have different field names. Well, a field name, if we take a look at my Rolodex card, is a last name. is my customer's first name, is the customer's company, address, and so on. So let's start at the top by typing in our first field name. And our first field name is the customer's last name. So I'll type in last name as the field name. Now when you're typing in a field name, you can't have any spaces, and that's the only reason why there's no space in between last and name. I'm going to press the Tab key to select the data type. Now the data type is the type of information. Text is what most people use all the time, and it's good for letters and numbers, like names, phone numbers, and zip or postal codes. So I'm going to accept text by pressing the Tab key, and here I can type in a description. Maybe it's customer's last name, as in my case. You type in the description, and afterwards, you're ready to go to the next field name, or the customer's first name, and I go there by pressing the Tab key. And now I'm ready to put in my next field name, which is first name, because here we're going to have the customer's first name. I'm going to press the Tab key to select the data type, and again, text is good because it is their first name. I'm going to press the Tab key to select it, and now I can type in my description, which is the customer's first name. And after you type the description, we're ready to go. But as you see, I made a little bit of a mistake. I forgot to put in first before name. And anytime you make a mistake, all you have to do is press the backspace key to erase one character to the left. So I'm going to finish up the description, and now we're ready to put in the next field name. Why don't you think about what it will be? When I press the Tab key, if you remember, I'm going to be tracking companies, my customers. So my next field name is company. Press the Tab key, and we're ready to select the data type. And again, Access tells me text because it's the most common, so it puts it there automatically. I'm going to accept text by pressing the Tab key. And now we're ready to put in the description that I'll simply say is the customer's company. And now we're ready to put in the next field name by pressing the Tab key, which is the address. I type in address as the field name, press the Tab key, and I'm ready to select the data type, which is text. I'll accept it by pressing the Tab key. And the description, well, this is an easy one. It's the customer's address. And as you can see, everything is matching my Rolodex card. Press the Tab key, and this is the city. And I'll press the Tab key again for the data type. I'll accept text by pressing the Tab key, and now we're ready to put in a description, or the customer's city. And once we're all done, we'll be able to use all these fields just as if we were using a regular Rolodex. I press the Tab key, and we type in the state. The Tab key again to select the data type, that's text, and press the Tab key again, and we're ready to type in the description of the field, which is the customer's state that they're located. Press the Tab key, and we have one more, and I'm sure you figured it out by now. It's going to be the zip code. So I type in zip code, and again without the space, because text is good for numbers and letters, press the Tab key and I have text, press the Tab key and I have a description that is the customer's zip or postal code. So I'll type in customer zip code, and now we're ready to have one more step in our table. Like phone books are organized by last name, it makes it easy when you know what you're looking for. My Rolodex file is also organized by last name. So say, for example, I need to find somebody whose last name starts with the letter D. All I need to do is find the tab with the D, and it makes it easier to find. Well, the customer's last name is called a key when you're talking about databases. It's the key to finding what you're looking for. Well, the first step to selecting a key is to point and click and to select what that key should be. Just like my Rolodex, it's a last name. So I'll point and click on last name to select it. Well, up here on the toolbar, there's a key, because this is the key to finding the information in our database. I'll point and click on key, and there you see, when I deselect it, there's a key right there. And the key tells me that all my information in my table is going to be organized by the person or the customer's last name. Now we need to save our table. We need to save the way that the information is going to be organized in our Rolodex. If I turn off the computer now, it's not going to be there next time unless I save it. So I'm going to save this by pointing and clicking on File, pointing and clicking on Save, And now I'm asked for a table name. Now this isn't a file name, this is the name of the table. So I'm going to call this my customer's address, because that's what the table describes. Now to save this as the name of the table, I point and click on OK. And once I do that, you see the table name right there. Now to close this window, the table customer address window, all I do is point and double click on the control panel and the window's closed. The next step is to create a form. Now we all know what a form is. It's a blank piece of paper with those little boxes we hate to fill in. But even if you hate filling out forms, you're going to like the way that we're going to fill out forms using Microsoft Access. We need to make a form for just our Rolodex file. And our blank boxes are going to have the titles last name, first name, company address, city, state, and zip code. So let's get started and create our form that we're going to do on the computer, and we're going to fill in using our keyboard, so we're going to have an electronic database or Rolodex file right at our fingertips. So let's create our form, and we do that by pointing and clicking on the form button. We need to create a new form, so I'm going to point and click on the new button. Now first I'm asked to select a table. Well, we made the table before and we called it customer address. When I point and click on this down arrow, I see customer address. So I'm going to select it by pointing and clicking to it. Now I could start from scratch and make a blank form, but in Microsoft Access there are these things called wizards, and the wizards will actually help you design a form and then make it for you. So I'm going to select the wizards by pointing and clicking on that button. And now I'm asked, what kind of form do you want? These are all the different kinds of forms that the wizards will help us create. I'm going to select a single column, and that's this form here. So single column is highlighted, so I'm going to point and click on OK to accept it. And now I'm asked, what fields do we want in the form? Or what about those boxes we need to fill in? Well, I can select them one by one with the single arrow here when I point and click. Every time I click, one of the fields goes over. Or I can take a shortcut and use this button with the two arrows. When I point and click there, all of them go over in one big swoop. And so now we're ready to go to the next step, so I'm going to point and click on Next. And now we're asked, what kind of form do you want? And you can see a sample right here. This is a standard form, and point and click, and now you see a chiseled form. Point and click, it's a shadowed form. This one's a boxed, and this one's an embossed. I like the boxed, so I'm going to point and click on that one. And now we're ready to take the next step, so I'm going to point and click on Next. And now we see the title that will appear on the top of the form. Microsoft Access takes the title from our table and puts it right there automatically. I'm going to accept that. I'm not going to change it, so I just want to open the form. I'm going to point and click on Open. And now the wizards, they've made my form for me. You see the title on the form. We see all the fields just as if it were my Rolodex file. So now we need to put our names into the form, so let's get started. Well, our first name is Glenn Pillar. His last name is Pillar, so I'll type that here. I just type in his name, and now we need to put in the first name, so I'm going to press the Tab key. When I press the Tab key, I'm into the first name, which is Glenn. So I just type in his first name, press the Tab key, and now I'm ready to put in his company name, or Chips Company. Press the Tab key, and now I'm ready to put in the address, or 876 Chestnut Street. I don't type so fast sometimes. Press the Tab key, and I'm in San Diego to type the city name. Press the Tab key again, and I'm ready to put in the state. That's California. And press the Tab key again, and I'm ready for the zip code, 90876. I want you to notice on the bottom of the screen, on the bottom you see something that says record. Every name in my Rolodex file is called a record. It's just the database. Just like a database is a list, a name in my Rolodex file, it's called a record. So now we're ready to put in the second name. And to do that, when I press the Tab key, we have a fresh form. We have more boxes to fill out, only this time it's for the second person in my Rolodex file, or the second name I want to put in my file. And this name is Harris. We're going to put in Jennifer Harris. So I need to press the Tab key, and I'm ready to put in her first name, which is Jennifer. Press the Tab key, and we're ready to put in the company, which is CompuParts. You just type as you normally would, press the Tab key, and we can type in the address, 43 Nutmeg Street. And you probably are wondering what we do next. Or maybe you're not, because you know we're going to press the Tab key. I press the Tab key, and I'm ready to type in the city, which is San Diego. Press the Tab key again, and we're into the state, the Tab key again, and it's zip code. It's just as if you were filling out a regular Rolodex card. So I'm going to finish putting in some more of my names and addresses. So I want you to excuse me for a moment while I finish. And now I'm all done typing some names into my electronic Rolodex file. So now I want to save the names, but first let me show you how many I typed in. And it's here on the bottom where it says 19. Now you know what a record is. A record is a name in my electronic Rolodex file. So let's save these names by pointing and clicking to File to open up the menu. And now I see Save Form, so I'm going to point and click to save the form. I could keep the name Form 1, but I want to make it a little bit more specific, so I'm going to call it Address Form. And all you have to do is type in what you want on where it says Form Name. And I want to call it Address Form, so I point and click on OK to save the form with that name. And once I do, it has been saved, and now I'm going to close the window. And to do that, I point and double-click on the control panel, and my form goes away just for a while, but as you see, it has been saved. Let's take a look at all the names I put inside my electronic Rolodex. To do that, you point and click on Table, and we're going to open the table, so I point and click on Open. And here you see all my names. Now, I didn't put them in any particular order. I just went ahead and typed them in as quickly as I could. Let's close the table that has all my names in it. And to do that, I point and double-click on the control panel. Let's say I wanted to find a name in my electronic Rolodex file. Well, it would certainly take a long time, like with my regular Rolodex. Let's say I wanted to find someone with the last name of Douglas. I'd start with the D tabs, and then I'd have to thumb through all the cards. Well, it's easy with Microsoft Access to find someone in your electronic Rolodex. When you want to find someone, it's called a query, and let's do one now. We select Query by pointing and clicking on the button that says Query. When I do that, I'm asked if I want to do a new query, and we do, so I'm going to point and click on New. And once I do, I'm asked the table that I want to perform the search on, and that's our customer address table that we made earlier. I'm going to select that by pointing and clicking on Add. And now we need to close the window, so I'm going to point and click on Close. Here's all the fields we put into our customer table. You see the last name, the first name, and it goes all the way down, and I'll show you the rest by pointing and clicking on the down arrow. And there's the zip code. Well, I want to see all the last names of my customers that are only in Arizona. And to do that, it's not very difficult. What we have to do is move the up arrow so I can see last name, because that's the field we're going to sort on. I select last name by pointing and clicking to it. And now I'm going to hold down the left mouse button, and I'm going to drag it to where it says field, because this is the field I want to sort by. Now I want to find my customers only in Arizona. So I'm going to go down to where I see state. I'm going to select state by pointing and clicking to it. I'm going to hold down the left mouse button and drag the field name state all the way to here. Now we need to select the sort, and I move the cursor by pointing and clicking here. When I press the down arrow by pointing and clicking, I can see ascending and descending. Well, I want to select ascending because I want my last name sorted A to Z. To select it, all I do is point and click. Now these squares say that I want to show them, and when there's an X there, all it means is that I want to see them. Now here's my criteria. This sets up certain parameters on the search. For example, I only want to see the people in Arizona. So I'm going to move the cursor over here underneath the state, click the left mouse button to drop the cursor, and I'm going to type in AZ for Arizona. Once I type in AZ, I have everything all set up so that I can see the last names of all my customers in alphabetical order from only the state of Arizona. Now to perform this search, what we have to do is point and click on the exclamation point. When I point and click there, automatically Microsoft Access went through my electronic Rolodex and pulled up all the last names, put them in alphabetical order, and it's all sorted by state. But let's say a couple of weeks from now, and I want to do this search again. And over the last couple of weeks, well, I've added a whole bunch of customers only in Arizona. But my Arizona office says, hey, how many customers do we have? Well, what I want to do is I want to save this query, and to do that, I point and click on File, and I point and click on Save Query. And now I can give the query a name, and I'll call it Arizona Customers. So this way, anytime I want to see my customers the same way in Arizona, after I've added some names, all I have to do is use this query. I'm going to save it by pointing and clicking on OK. And now we can close the window, and I'm going to point and click on the control panel, point and double click to close the window. With all my names and addresses in my electronic Rolodex file, there's so much you can do. Like maybe you need to send a letter to all your customers. Well, with the old way, with my Rolodex, I'd have to pull out a card, get an envelope, put it in the typewriter, type the address, get the next card, repeat the process. What a mess. Well, with Microsoft Access, you can do it in a snap, and I'll show you how. Now, Microsoft Access calls anything that you want to print out a report, and this includes mailing labels. So I'm going to select Report by pointing and clicking to it. It's a new report, so I'm going to point and click on New Report. And now I'm asked to select a table, and I'm going to point and click on the down arrow to see my different tables. I don't want just the Arizona customers, I want all my customers. So I'm going to point and click on Customer Address to select all my customers. Now I could start the report from scratch by selecting Blank Report, but I'm going to let the wizards do the work for me. So I'm going to point and click on Report Wizards, and now we're asked what kind of report do we want. Well, here's the one we want, a mailing label. So I'm going to select it by pointing and clicking on Mailing Label and pointing and clicking on OK. And now I need to say where the information will appear on my mailing label. Well, the first field we want is the person's first name. So I'm going to select it by pointing and clicking to it. And now we need to have it put on the label, so I point and click on this arrow to move it over. And now I need to put a space in between the person's first name and last name. And here's the space that I need to use with my mouse. I point and click on space, and a space will now appear after the person's first name. After their first name, we need their last name. So I'm going to select it by pointing and clicking. I move it over to the label by pointing and clicking on this arrow. And there it is. And now we need to put their company name. But first, I need to have a line here. So this is a special carriage return that I point and click with my mouse that moves me down to the next line. And now I'm going to put their company name on the label. I'm going to select company name by pointing and clicking to it. I'm going to move it to the label by pointing and clicking on this arrow. And now we need to go to the next line where we can have their address. And to do that, I point and click on the special carriage return that puts me down to the next line, as you see here. And now we need their address. So I point and click on address, I move it over by pointing and clicking on this arrow, and you probably know what we do next. We need to drop down a line. So I'm going to point and click on the special carriage return with my mouse, and now we're ready to put the city, the state, and the zip code. Well, first, I have to point and click on the down arrow until I see city, state, and zip. I'm going to select the city by pointing and clicking to it. I move it arrow by pointing and clicking on this arrow. And now we need to put a comma, and it's right here. I point and click on the comma, and there's my comma that will appear after the customer's city. And now we need a space, so I point and click on my space here, and there's my space. And now we need the state, so we select the state by pointing and clicking on state. We're going to move it over by pointing on the arrow. And now we need a couple of spaces in between the state and what will be the zip code. So I point and click on the space 2 times, and I see my 2 spaces right here. So now we need to select the zip code. So I'm going to point and click on zip code to select it. I'm going to move it over by pointing and clicking on this arrow, and now I have all the information that will appear on the label just as it should. So now I'm going to point and click on next. That brings me to a sort. I can sort all my names by different categories. I'm going to select it by the last name by pointing and clicking here, and now all my names will be sorted in alphabetical order. I point and click on next, And now I'm asked, what kind of labels do I have? Well, Avery is the name of a company that makes labels for your printer. And what you do, each Avery label has a different number associated with it. Well, the labels that I bought for my printer have the number 5160. So I'm going to point and click on the down arrow and hold it down until I see 5160, because these are the labels that I bought. I select 5160 by pointing and clicking to it. Now we're ready to go to the next step, so I'll point and click on Next. And now I can see a print preview. When I point and click on this button, I can see all my labels as they'll appear when they're printed. And as you can see, all my customer names and addresses are sorted by the customer's last name. So let's send our labels to the printer. And to do that, all I have to do is point and click on Print. And I'm asked a couple of questions. And if I want to print all the labels or just a few of the pages. Well, I want to print all my labels, so I'll keep it selected. I'm going to point and click on OK, and all my labels are being sent to my printer. You see, I loaded my laser printer with these special Avery labels, and I knew the number just by looking on the box, 5160. There's all kinds of labels for all types of printers. You just have to make sure that you get the right size. And here's my labels now as they're coming out of the printer. And you can see that each one is on a separate label, so all I have to do is peel off the label and put it on an envelope, and the envelope's ready to go. And we did this in just a matter of moments. And can you imagine all the time that it would have taken to create all these labels by hand if we had to type them? Well, thanks to Microsoft Access, that's a lot easier than it used to be. So let's close this print preview window. And to do that, I point and double click on it. And because I haven't saved it, Microsoft asked me if I want to save. So I'll point and click on yes, and now I'm asked to give the report a name. And I'll call it Labels, because that's what it is. And now that I typed in my report name, I'll point and click on OK. And here we are, we're right back where we started with the main window. To close the window, or to stop using this database, I point and click on File, I point and click on Close Database, and we see the screen it looked like when we first started the program. Well, let me show you how to get a file back, or to open up one of your electronic Rolodex files, for example. Point and click on File, point and click on Open Database, and you see all the names of your files here. Well, here's the one I want, so I'll select it by pointing and clicking on it, and then pointing and clicking on OK. And here's all the information that we worked on. This was our table, here's our query, here's our form, and here's our report. So as you can see, a database is nothing more than a big list. But now we need to say goodbye to the program. We need to formally exit. And to do that, we point and double click on the control panel, or I can point and click on File and point and click on Exit. And here we are, we're right back in Windows. I want you to think about all the lists that you track and explore it, and just go through Microsoft Access. It's simple to keep track of everything, all those lists, using Microsoft Access. I recently read a very interesting survey. It said that people remember only 10% of what they read, only 20% of what they hear, only 30% of what they see, but 70% of what they see and hear. So when you need to make a point, you have to talk about it, and you also have to show it. Have you ever gone to any of those presentations where the person stands up in the front and all they do is talk, and you sit there trying to keep your eyes open? But that won't happen to you if you use a program called Harvard Graphics. With it, you'll create presentations that will keep people awake and that they'll also remember. Now, because Harvard Graphics works with Windows, it might be a good time to review Tape 1. So let's get started in Windows with the Program Manager up on the top of the screen. Inside, we see the Open Harvard Graphics box. Now, to start the program, we select the icon with the pie chart with the pie in it, and then double point and double click to start the program. We get the hourglass. That means that Harvard Graphics is getting everything together that I need to create a presentation. Here on the first screen, I have a couple of options. I can create a presentation, or I can open a presentation, as you see in the file folder and the charts coming out of it. Well, we're going to create a new presentation. So I'm going to point and click on that button. And now we are getting ready to create our presentation. Harvard Graphics is going to ask us a couple of questions. First of all, we need to select a presentation style. We can accept this one, but I'm going to change it to get a blue background. I'm going to point and click on presentation style, and here I see several options. All these are different backgrounds. Take, for example, beige. When I point and click on the beige style, I see the example over here on the template. If I point and click on brown boxes, for example, this is what this slide will look like. But I'm going to select a blue background, and that's this one. Point and click, and now I have this background that is blue in the back. I'm going to point and click on OK to accept this, and now we get to choose our chart type. And I'm going to select a title chart because this is the first slide of the presentation. So that's OK with me, so now I can select an option. These are all different kinds of title charts. Well, I'm going to select this one that has the big title and a subtitle that you'll see in just a while. Now I'm going to point and click on OK to go forward. And now I have to put in the information that will appear on my slide. This is the title, and my title is World Travel. We are going to be making a presentation about world travel. So I put this on my title chart just by typing. And now we put a subtitle. So I'm going to move the cursor down there by moving the mouse pointer and clicking the left mouse button. It's about World Travel's annual meeting. So I'm going to type in annual meeting that you'll see in our chart in just a while. In the footnote on a title chart, that's normally the date. I'm going to move the cursor by moving the mouse pointer and clicking the left mouse button. And the date of the meeting is spring 1994. When I point and click on OK, you'll see the information that we just typed in on our slide. A slide in a presentation is like a 35mm slide about your vacation. Only our slide has information about it, about a business presentation or a meeting for world travel. Now I can do a couple of things. The first thing I'd like to do is put a picture inside my slide. So I'm going to go up to the icon here on the toolbar and select this truck. What the truck is different symbols or different pictures I can use inside my charts. I'm going to point and click on the symbol library that gives me all kinds of options. Inside Harvard Graphics, there's all kinds of pictures, like arrows and buildings and computers and currency, flags. Well, the one that I want is a globe, and it's in the Office symbol library. So I'm going to point and click on the down arrow. These are those elevator bars that we learned about in Windows. I'm going to go all the way down until I see Office. I'm going to point and click to select it, and now that I have it, I'm going to point and click on OK. And soon we'll see all the pictures in the Office symbol library. There's a bookcase, a briefcase, but the globe that I want is down on the bottom. So I need to point and click on the down arrow until the globe appears. As you can see, there's all kinds of pictures, a cluttered desk, an executive chair, but I want the globe, and I think it's right here. Now that I see the globe, I have to select it, and I do that by pointing and clicking on the globe. We get a box around it, and this tells us that this is the symbol that we selected. I need to copy it to the slide so that it will appear on my slide. I'm going to point and click on Copy to Slide so it'll appear on my World Travel title sheet. And now that it's there, I point and click on Exit. As you see, the globe is taking up a lot of space here, and so it's covering up World Travel. I can't even see my title. So what I need to do is to make it smaller. Now there's boxes all around the sides. When I move my mouse pointer on one of those boxes, I can adjust the size. I get a doubled arrow. Once I get the doubled arrow, I click the left mouse button and hold it down, and I get this dotted box around it. And now I can make the globe bigger or I can make it smaller. But I need to make it smaller, and to do that, once it's grabbed and I get the double arrows with the left mouse button held down, all I have to do is move the mouse to the size that I want it. And this size looks good. But it's still covering up the annual meeting part, so I need to move it. And to do that, I put my mouse pointer right in the center, click the left mouse button to grab a hold of it, and then drag the globe wherever I want it. This looks about right. And once it's there, release the left mouse button to drop it. We can also make the letters bigger or anything else inside the screen. I can move annual meeting the same way by putting my mouse pointer there, clicking the left mouse button, and I can move it down or I can move it up. Let's make world travel big. And to do that, I point on it, click the left mouse button so it's selected. And then down here on the left on this toolbar, there's the letter A, all different types of waves. When I point and click on the A, I can change the font or the typeface. And here's my sample. I can make it thin, or I can go back to the font that I had. We also have the point size. And as the numbers go up, the letters that you see here will go up. And I want to make world travel bigger. So I'm going to point and click on the down arrow until I see, how about 84? So I'll point and click on 84. Now you can hardly see the letters there, but you'll see world travel big as soon as we get there. I can select a style, and bold looks good to me. And I'll point and click on OK, and there you go. There's world travel so that everybody can see it. Now I need to make the next slide in my presentation. So I point and click on Add the Slide. And now we're going to create a pie chart. So I need to point and click and select a pie chart. So I do that by pointing and clicking the left mouse button. And here you see, soon you'll see on the left-hand side, a sample of a pie chart. And so this is what my second slide of my presentation will look like. So we have the pie chart selected. Now here's my different options or different types of pie charts. Well, I like the kind that has the piece taken out of it, and that's also three-dimensional. So I point and click on that, and then I can point and click on OK, because that's the pie chart that I've selected. And now we're ready to put the information that will go inside the pie chart. Labels, well, these are text, and values are the numbers that are associated to the labels. Well, the first label I want to put in is tours, because we're going to make a pie chart about all the travel agents and what they book at World Travel. So I'm going to type in tours, and the first thing I type in, that'll be the cutout piece of the pie chart. And now we need to put in the value, so I'm going to point and click on values so I can put in the percentage, or 22. And now we need to put in the rest of the labels in our pie chart. The next one are auto rentals. So I'll type in auto rentals because World Travel wants to track where all the travel agents are booking. So now we need to put in the values. So I point and click to go to that box, and 10% of the bookings for our travel agents are to auto rentals. And now we need to enter in air travel. Well, air travel is a lot of our travel agents' work. So I'm going to point and click, and I'll type in 43. The next one we need to do is cruises. Cruises are getting real popular, but they're not as popular as air travel. So I'll type in cruises, and now we need to put in the percentage. And I got there by pointing and clicking. And it's 20%. Now we need to put in the other category. Maybe this is trains and so forth. So I type in other, and then I'll point and click to enter in that value, or 5%. And now, as we did before, we have to put the titles on the chart so that people that are looking at the chart know what is inside the pie chart. So I have to move my mouse pointer up to the title, click the left mouse button, and I get a cursor, so this way I can type in the title. I'm going to type in travel agent bookings, but if you ever make a mistake, all you have to do is press the backspace key. So I type in travel agent bookings because this is the title of our chart. And now we need to put in the subtitle. Well, to give people a further understanding of what is in this pie chart, I'm going to type in national averages because that's what this chart is showing. Now, we also can put in a footnote. And again, it's good to have a footnote if it relates to a time. And so this was for the year 1993. Now, to delete the characters to the right, all I have to do is press the delete key. And I'll press the delete key until the word footnote is all gone. And so when I'm all done putting in all the information about my pie chart, all I do is point and click on OK, and Harvard Graphics shows me my pie chart that I just made, with travel agent bookings as the title, national averages as the subtitle, and all the tours and other, with all their percentages shown on the screen. And down here, it's my footnote. We're going to add one more slide to our presentation So this way everybody knows what direction we're headed to. I'm going to add a slide by pointing and clicking there. But this time, we're going to add a bullet chart because those are real popular in presentations, and they're good when you want to make a point. I'm going to point and click to select bullet, and on the left here, you see what a bullet chart will look like. Over here, you see the different types of bullets. I could have check marks, diamonds, squares, or circles. I'm going to keep the selection, the circles, and just point and click on OK to put the information into our bullet chart. The first thing we need to put in are the bullets, or the destinations for world travel. And Hawaii is the first one, so I just type in Hawaii, press Enter, and now I'm ready to put in my second bullet, but I really need to put in more information about Hawaii. So I'm going to indent by pressing the Tab key and type in the Big Island, because World Travel has targeted the Big Island as a future tour destination. Press Enter, and now I'm ready to type in Maui, because World Travel likes Maui too. Press Enter again, and now I could either put in another island, but I need to talk about Europe. So I'm going to press Shift-Tab to move the indent to the margin. And now we're going to type in Europe, because this is another world travel destination. Press Enter, and now we're ready to put in information about Europe or another bullet item. I'm going to press Tab because we want to indent and type in London. And next, we're going to type in Rome. Press Enter, and we're ready to type in Rome. And we type in Rome, press Enter. There's one more destination World Travel likes, and that's the South Pacific. So I'm going to press Shift-Tab to put the bullet against the margin, type in the South Pacific, press Enter, press the Tab key because we have a couple of places in the South Pacific to talk about. The Tab key indents under the South Pacific, and I'm ready to type in Tahiti. Press Enter, and I'm ready to type in Fiji. And now we're ready to put the title on our bullet chart. First, I have to move the cursor up to the title area, and I do that by moving the mouse pointer and clicking the left mouse button. Now, the title of this chart is New Tour Destinations. So I'm going to type in New Tour Destinations, because this will appear on the top of my chart. Now I'm ready to type in the subtitle. I'm going to move the cursor there by moving the mouse pointer and clicking the left mouse button. Now the subtitle is Package Deals. These are deals that World Travel is putting together. Now I don't need a footnote on this slide, so I'm going to move the cursor there by pointing and clicking the left mouse button and then pressing the Delete key until footnote is all gone. And now we're ready to see our bullet chart. I'm going to point and click on OK, and there's our bullet chart. There's our title, New Tour Destinations, our subtitle, Package Deals, and all the destinations for World Travel that we just typed in. Now, because I have some time invested in putting this presentation and all these slides together, it's time to save the file. If I turn off my computer right now, well, my presentation won't be there, so I need to save the file. Well, on our toolbar, you probably guessed that there's an icon just to do this. It's this one, with the arrow pointing on the diskette. When I point and click there, Harvard Graphics asks me for a file name, and I'm going to call this one World, that stands for World Travel. And I'm going to point and click on OK so that Harvard Graphics save the file for me. And right here, you see at the top, the file name that we call this presentation with the file extension PRS. Harvard Graphics gives us that file extension automatically, so this way we know that it's a presentation. Now we want to look at our slides, almost as if it was a summer vacation. So I'm going to point and click on this button, the one with all the squares, and when I do, we see our presentation in the sequence that we just made it. This was our first slide, this was our second slide, and this was our third slide. Now I can move the slides around so that the sequence changes. And to do that, I point and click on the slide I want to move, hold down the left mouse button until you see that hand, and then just move the hand where you want it, maybe in the second position, release the left mouse button, and there you go. The slide that was number 3 is now number 2. To move it back, all I do is point and click the left mouse button, hold the left mouse button down and move the mouse, and you get that hand. Move it past the other one, release the left mouse button, and there you go. I mean, it sure beats moving those 35mm slides around on that tray. There's a whole bunch of things you can do, but let's take a look at our presentation. And to do that, I point and click here, but beforehand, I'm going to show you something that can really make your presentation stand out. That's this button. It's the Edit the Effects. Edit the way that the slide presentation is shown. You'll see what I mean in a second. When I point and click there, I see all my slides in the way that they will appear as they are shown. Let's start with the first one, World Travel, that title chart. I'm going to point and click there, and there's my chart that we made right here. And now if we look under number 2, these are the slide effects. Now the draw effect is how it appears when it's shown on the screen, and the erase effect is how it disappears after it's shown on the monitor. Now this is the default, or what Harvard Graphics gives me automatically, but I want to change it. I want to make my presentation special. And to do that, I point and click on the down arrow that shows me all kinds of options. I'm going to select Rain Down by pointing and clicking on it. And so now you can see when this slide is first shown, it's going to look just like this until it looks like this, all shown on the screen. And now we're going to change the way that it's erased on the screen. We do it the same way. We point and click on the down arrow, and I'm going to make it Rain Up. So I point and click on Rain Up. So this is the way that our slide will be drawn on our screen. Now we also have to say how long the slide display time is. And I drop my cursor there by pointing and clicking the left mouse button. Well, I want this slide to be shown for 5 seconds. So I type in 5, and I'm all ready to work with the second slide, which is the travel agent bookings. I'm going to select the second slide by pointing and clicking to it. And now we'll select the way that the screen will be shown. We point and click on the down arrow because I want to change the way that it appears. So I'm going to point and click on the up arrow until I see Open Horizontal. Point and click on Open Horizontal, and this is the way that the second slide will look as it's going through the presentation. Now we want to change the way it's erased off the screen. Point and click on the down arrow, and I'm going to choose Close Horizontal, but we need to go up to the C's. So I'm going to point and click on the up arrow until we find the C's, and there it is, Close Horizontal. Point and click on Close Horizontal, and now we're ready to put in the slide display time. I put my cursor there by pointing and clicking the left mouse button. I'd like this slide shown 5 seconds too, just like the first slide. So I type in 5 for 5 seconds, and now I'm ready to work on the third slide. Point and click on the third slide to select it, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to change the effects of the slide as the presentation is going. I'm going to change the default, or what Harvard Graphics gave me, by pointing and clicking on the down arrow. We're going to point and click on the up arrow until we see Fade. And there's Fade. I'm going to choose Fade by pointing and clicking on it. And that's the way Fade will look. But let's change the erase effect too. Point and click on the down arrow, and I want to choose Fade Down. So we're going to go all the way up until we see it. Point and click on Fade Down, and we're ready to put in the slide display time. I'm going to put the cursor there by pointing and clicking the left mouse button. We'll show this slide for 5 seconds too. And now that we're all done, I'm going to point and click on OK because we're all done working with the effects. And now we're ready to see our slide presentation. Let's start from the beginning by moving the slide selected all the way to the front one, or the first slide. I'm going to point and click on World Travel, which is the first slide. And now we're ready to see our slide presentation. And that's this button. It almost looks like a screen that you'd show a regular movie or home vacation on. When I point and click there, you see my slide presentation with all the effects in just a moment. Harvard Graphics is working on getting the presentation on my screen. That was Rain Down, and you can see it looks really great. And soon we'll be seeing the second slide that will open horizontally. And there's a lot you can do with this. Think about if you were giving a presentation and all this was shown on the screen. I mean, I don't think anybody could fall asleep if you were explaining all the new tour destinations that appeared like that on the screen. And once it's all done, you go right back to where you started. And you can add more slides or print these out, which we'll be doing soon. So let's print out our slide presentation. And to do that, all we have to do is find the icon, which is right here. It looks like a printer with some paper coming out. When I point and click on the printer, I'm able to print out my slides. I have a couple of options, though. I can print out the slides. The speaker notes are handy. And if you want to give out handouts to the people in the audience, that's a good option, too. You have to select your printer. And in order to have your slides printed out in color, you do need a color printer. But I'll tell you, they look good in black and white, too. You have to select a print quality, and I'll select Final, but Draft is good when you just want to see what your slides will look like. And now you select the range. I can select only a couple of pages, say just the third page, or I can print all of them. When I'm all ready to print, all I have to do is point and click on OK, and Harvard Graphics is sending all my slides out to my color printer, and soon we'll be able to use it. Now I have all the printouts from my presentation that came out of my color printer. And take a look at these. I mean, I never could have created such work with my hands. Odds are, you probably would have hired a graphics design company to do such work. And it would have cost maybe even hundreds of dollars. And we did it all with Harvard Graphics in just a matter of moments. And now that we're all done using Harvard Graphics to create this presentation, it's time to save our file. And to save a file, all we do is point and click on the Save icon located here on the toolbar. When I point and click on the Save icon, Harvard Graphics saves my file with all the changes. And now we're ready to quit the program. And to quit any Windows program, all I have to do is point and double-click on the Control panel, or I can point and click on File, and then point and click on Exit. And here I am, right back in Windows. You know, there's a lot more you can do with Harvard Graphics. These printouts, they would have been good for a sales proposal, maybe to a customer. And for a presentation, you really can't beat Harvard Graphics. Explore the program. Make your own charts and presentations. It's simple with Harvard Graphics.